Hi, welcome back to the Cuzzy Sound channel. What I'm going to do today is talk about a patch that I set up on my Project XII modular synth. I've been playing around with the dual VCO, which allows me to tune one oscillator, detune it rather, against the other and get some interesting sounds. Then I started playing around with the envelopes and filters, and I got something which is kind of an interesting progression. Using a slow envelope, well, slow attack envelope, which is slightly out of time with the arpeggio that I'm triggering it with from the Arturia key step, and I quite like the result. So I thought I wanted to record the patch so I could record it again at some time, and I thought, well, hey, if I'm going to do that, I might as well share it with everybody else, and maybe you can use some of the ideas in some of your own patches, and who knows, you might even like the result. So let's have a look at Project 12 and I'll talk you through what I did. Okay, so this is the patch as I've set it up on Project 12. This is the dual oscillator. As I kind of talk my way through it, you'll see what happens. Let's have a listen to the dual oscillator on its own. So if I actually take the output from the dual oscillator and find the patch lead, and if I there we go. Right, so what I've done there is you've got the first oscillator is producing a square wave output, the second oscillator also producing a square wave output, and what I've got a switch on the bottom there which basically joins the output of the two together, so I can either switch it between having independent outputs or the same, both oscillators coming from either of the two outputs. So on this setup, both oscillators are coming from the two of the outputs. What I've also got above it is another switch there. On that switch, what that allows me to do is to trigger either each oscillator independently with its CV input, or in the position it's in at the moment. If I hit a note on the key step, you hear they both actually change tone, and that's because they're both sharing the same CV input, so they actually track each other. So once I've set the interval on the two oscillators, they will actually track each other as the CV inputs come in. Okay. So, talking through the patch now. So that's, you heard what the oscillator was generating. So the output from the oscillator is going into a Vactrol VCA, and the output from the Vactrol VCA, which is this lead, goes into it's an MS-20 style voltage control filter, and then the output from the filter just goes into a little mixer so I can actually handle the output. Triggering things, CV, as you've just heard, the CV is coming from the key step. The gate from the key step, well, the gate from the key step is going into the gate in on the envelope generator, which has got quite a long slope on the attack and a little bit of release on there. The output from the envelope is actually going into a splitter. So what the splitter is doing, it's taking the envelope signal into both the Vactrol, and also it's taking the envelope signal into the CV input on the voltage control filter. So the same envelope is triggering the Victrol, so opening and closing the VCA, and the exact same signal is also affecting the cutoff sweep of the VCF, the voltage control filter. So what does that sound like? Well, I hit the key and there's a little bit of a delay because there's a very slow envelope, so I don't think you can actually see me hitting the key on the video, but you might hear me. I'll hit it hard so you can actually hear when I hit it. So there's a delay between me hitting the key and the note actually sounding. That's because of the very slow rise on the envelope type. But it starts to get really interesting when we don't just hit single keys, we actually run an arpeggio. So I'm going to trigger an arpeggio on the key step now, and then you'll hear how the sound progresses. I've also got the arpeggio set so that it's picking the notes at random, so the control on the arpeggiator is set to random. What you can hear as the sound develops, rather than getting a clear cut off in exactly the same point each time, because there's a slight mismatch between the speed of the arpeggio and the delay caused by the envelope shape, it tends to shift over time so that the actual pauses move, so you don't get the same length of notes playing before you get the next pause. Personally, I quite like that sound, and it will definitely be cropping up in some future track. Watch this space. Subscribe and then you'll get a notification. So, there you go. That's currently my favourite patch so far. So, yeah, I can set this sort of thing up. You've got a modular system, have a go. Build your own patch.